So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker this morning. He's also one of our new partners of NZIEH for this year. His company Food Surety is a bronze level partner. I'd like to welcome in Ray Haddad. Ray is a lead trader and managing director at Food Surety Limited and has a vast experience in the food realm, including food safety, food defence, even food fraud prevention. He's worked in various roles including auditing, training and advisory projects amongst many organisations. And today he's going to dive into how skilled verifiers can shape safer food systems and just exploring what it means to not just be a good verifier, but a great verifier. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over, welcome in, good morning, Ray.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Tanya, and definitely it's a great opportunity to be here today talking to you and to all these great verifiers. I was actually thinking and laughing this morning, thinking I'm glad I'm not a restaurant manager. Talking to 100 verifiers at the same time would have given me a heart attack, but luckily I am not, and I'm very excited to be here today talking to you all. And the topic that we have for you today would be beyond evidence, how skilled verifiers shape food safety systems, right? And a safer food system for everyone. And to start with, I would like to start the session, if you'd like, with a bit of a story. Some 7-8 years ago, I was delivering a bit of a project, a training program over 2 weeks in Thailand, and it was about risk management and the rest of it. And as part of the program, we had a local professor from one of the local universities there talking to us about how bad the situation is in Thailand when it comes to liver cancer. Thousands and thousands of deaths every year because of liver cancer. You're talking, like, for example, in 2022, there were more than 27,000 deaths caused by liver cancer in Thailand. And it forms the biggest contributor to cancer-related deaths in Thailand. And the more they looked into it, the more they know that there are key contributing factors. And one of them, the key factors that lead to that is liver fluke. Mainly, it's a parasite in a certain type of fish, and that people eat raw, especially in the northeastern part of Thailand. They have a traditional plate, they call it koi pla, where they eat a certain type of fish raw. It has that parasite, that worm. It goes to the bloodstream, to the liver, inflammation, leading to liver cancer. And it's killing people. So what they realized that they really need to work on that food safety issue to reduce the number of deaths caused by liver cancer. And they've done a lot of education, a lot of work, convincing people to cook that fish, right? And to cook it safely and the rest of it. And that reduces the numbers of deaths related to liver cancer. So it's a food safety concern, really. Not directly, but eventually feeding into the deaths related to liver cancer. And also, they realized that a second contributor to liver cancer cases in Thailand is the fact that hepatitis B is very common. And what they also know, that people who had hepatitis B are 60 times more sensitive to aflatoxins. And aflatoxins, as you may know, is a toxin producing by certain types of mold that is very likely to be in dried food. So aflatoxin in food like peanuts, and by the way, here is the fish in the plate, and now we're talking peanuts. So as an example, if aflatoxin is there at higher level in peanuts, which they use a lot in their food in Thailand, then people with hepatitis B are 60 times more vulnerable. And that's why they added extra controls around aflatoxin in food to help reducing the number of deaths caused by liver cancer. So the moral of all of this story here and the details behind it, that introducing one control related to food safety can save thousands of lives. And that's really, really important. And that takes us back to the work that you do In New Zealand, you are you are supporting the food system across the country. You're not only supporting one control to the like of sorting peanuts or training people and educating them and managing the risk of one traditional plate. You're participating in delivering and ensuring a whole lot of controls, and you can imagine how many lives you're saving on daily basis, on annual basis. So keep up the great work you do and do more of it, right? What you're doing is saving lives, is saving thousands and thousands of illness cases, probably every day, every week, every year. So thank you, and do more of it. And that takes us to your verifications, right? And which we will talk about today, and how we can add more value at a national level, at even for that specific consumer who's eating that meal in the restaurant you verified, right? As an example. So hopefully today's session will help you to answer 3 questions. What to focus on in my next verification to add more value, how to manage my time, and how to make sure that I'm covering what I should be covering in this particular verification, and how to add value, how to save lives, how to maximize the benefits of what we do. All right. So to start with, here is the definition of verification. Or an audit in general, based on ISO 19011. They say it's a systematic, independent, documented process for gathering objective evidence, evaluating it objectively against the audit criteria. It's a mouthful, I know. But basically, we're saying it's a documented process. So at your workplace, at your councils, there should be a documented procedure that you adhere to on how to conduct a verification, how to communicate, how to report, and the rest. It should be systematic, which means you are delivering a verification on the system, not the people. We don't judge people. How come, mate, you don't know how to do this? That's not our job. We're assessing the system and its implementation, and we need to be structured, systematic. We need to be independent, as you know, not biased, and everything you do is all about gathering objective evidence, comparing it to the audit criteria, the standard you're auditing against, which happen to be the Food Act, the regulations, and the rest. All right. So again, as per ISO 19011, there is a whole lot of a process that we need to follow. And what you see on the screen here would be the steps that we need to adhere to, starting from initiating the audit, planning, preparing, going to entry meetings, conducting audit activities or verification activities if you like, closing meeting, reporting, and follow-up. Each part of the process is super important. And because it's a process, we have to follow it in the right sequence. I can't write a report before conducting an audit. I can't conduct the audit or the verification before preparing, and so on. Today I have probably 40 minutes, and that's why I would like to focus on one area, which is conducting audit activities. All right. So we need to gather objective evidence, but when you go to that workplace you're auditing, there is a whole lot of information. Let's say you're conducting a verification and the frequency of it is every 12 months or every 18 months. During that time, they have generated a whole lot of information. You cannot check it all. That's why you need to rely on sampling. You use certain audit methods. You gather objective evidence. You compare it to the audit criteria, and now you have a finding. Whether they comply, they meet the requirement, or they don't. And at the end of the verification, you will have an audit finding, acceptable, not acceptable. You report on that, and that will be your audit conclusion, right? What I would like to talk to you a bit today or now would be how to gather that objective evidence, and to give you some tips around that. Then we will move into a more full-on concept that I would like to talk to you about, which is risk-based thinking. All right. So to start with, let's talk about observing. And just to give you a few tips here and there, hopefully that will be a good refresher for you. And if you leave this session with a couple of good tips today, that would be fantastic, especially if you apply these tips at your workplace. So we all hear the saying that a picture is better than 1,000 words. So you can imagine how good it will be to stand there at the workplace, looking around, seeing what they're doing, hearing it, feeling it, like seeing exactly what happens. But with that said, we need to be aware of the familiar. We need to be aware that our brain is trained to make sense out of random things. So you look at the clouds, you think, that's a body. Well, it's not a body. It's just a cloud. But your brain is trying to make sense out of that shape, right? And that happens in your audit, in your verifications. You go, you look at the wall, you see some marks on it. You might think, this is mold. Well, maybe it isn't. You need to verify what you see. Always verify what you see. This is very important. Double check it. And another point I'd like to highlight, that a verifier, a skilled verifier, doesn't look, they see. They pay attention. They analyze. They try to understand. They confirm by double checking. All right. Another method that you can use would be reviewing documents and records. You need to look at paperwork because it's important, because it's part of compliance, because it shows us what has been happening not only today, not only last week, but during those 12 months. Yes, we can't look at everything, but we need to be consistent, and we need to have a bit of an agreement across the verifiers at our council. What do we look at? Which paperwork, which records, which documents? How far back do I go back? Do I look only at this month? Do I look at the last 3 months? Do I look at the last 3 months and pick a random month from the rest of the year to keep that auditee on their toes, basically, because we don't want them to know that, the verifier will only look at the last month before the verification, and during the year they don't worry about paperwork. So this is an area that I really would like to invite you all to discuss at your councils and talk about, and make sure that we're consistent. We know which time frames we're looking at and how we keep the auditee at their toes, on their toes, right? So by picking a random month, maybe, and probably you do that already anyway, but I thought I will highlight it. And speaking of that, let's talk about sampling, right? Well, here we go. Before sampling, let's talk about cross-checking. This is an area that comes a lot in our courses when we discuss with verifiers and auditors. You might be looking at paperwork and you might have a feeling that, it seems like they faked the paperwork. This is fake. It's not true. If you can't prove it, then it's not fake, right? And how can you check and double check? You need to look at the paperwork, and the best thing you can do is to cross-check it. Cross-check it with other paperwork. So if I'm in a takeaway in a restaurant, as an example, they have receiving records for the chicken, they have cooking records for the cooking of the chicken, and they have cooling potentially. All right. So these 3 records need to match. If I can see that you received chicken, but in 3 months I haven't seen a single cooking record, well, you received chicken, you didn't dump it. Where is the cooking records, right? And if you cooked in given days, then where is the cooling? If there is cooling happening, right? So cross-check it. That's very powerful. Another thing you can do, team, is if I have doubts that the team member is not writing what's right, ask them to show you. Show me how you check. And if they don't check properly, let's say it's temperature checks and they just look at the gauge on the wall and they write 3. Why? Because it's the set temperature on the fridge. It's not actual temperatures. Then we have a problem where there is an unconformance, and that will encourage them to look into it and fix it. So ask them to show you, cross-check it. Hopefully that will help to confirm that the paperwork is legit or not. All right. Another method that you can use in your audit would be sampling. We can't look at everything we agreed. That's why I have to take samples. We can use statistical based sampling based on numbers and calculation and statistics, and we say, okay, I need to check 600 pieces of kiwi fruit in this pack house to give me the confidence that the fruit is free of disease or something like that based on calculation. We can do that, but most of the sampling we do in our verifications would be judgment-based sampling. In simple terms, based on your experience. All right. So we might agree, again, consistency is important, that we look at 10% of the population or square root or something. So if they have 15 team members, I might check 4. 16 square root 4. We might say, okay, check 4, minimum of 2, just to make sure that we're checking enough at least. If they have only 3, at least I will check 2, right? And when you take sample or samples in your verification, I might take samples of records. I might take samples of products that I will check the weight of or the temperature of. I might take samples of labels that I would like to verify. And people, as I said, like to assess their competency. And just to drop in another tip here really quickly, I hope I'm adding some value here with these tips. You need to always think risk. Always. In everything you do, always focus on the highest risk. So if I decided that they have 15 team members, I would like to take, say, 4 to assess the competency of. Now I need to decide which 4. I'm not going to pick the 4 experienced team members to assess the competency of. They mentioned that they have hired 2 people in the last 2 months. Well, maybe talk to these 2 people because the risk is higher there. So always focus on the highest risk. Another tip or another method to keep in mind when you are verifying is trend analysis. Look at what's happening over a period of time. If a small thing has happened only once, so only once in the last 3 months, I noticed that they didn't check the temperature of a certain delivered chilled product, probably let it go because it's a one-off. But if every Sunday they're not checking temperatures, or it happened, say, 6-7 times in the last 3 months, then clearly there is a systematic issue. It's more serious. Another area or another method, again, that you can be utilizing in your audit would be checking and measuring. Checking temperatures, labels, as we said, weights, whatever that is. Make sure that you take the right samples. Make sure that whatever device you use in measuring is calibrated, maintained, and good, i.e. the thermometer. Whether you use their thermometer and it is calibrated, or you use your own and again it is calibrated. Another method that is very important that you will use in your verification would be interviews. I mentioned to you at the beginning of the session here that we are assessing the system and its implementation. We're not assessing the individual, all right? But with that said, we're talking to people, and we need to be really good at talking to people and listening to them and interviewing them. So here are some quick tips around that. When I interview people, clearly I need to ask questions and I need to listen. And the word auditor is actually derived from the word auditory, listening. You're there to listen. You're not there to talk. Does it make sense? So a good auditor actually asks less questions because they ask good ones. When you ask good questions, you ask smaller number of it, right? So speaking of those questions, as you know, we have open questions that invite chats, that invite the individual to talk more, to share more. Examples of it can be tell me about, how do you manage, show me, right? There are questions that are closed, can be answered with a short question, as you know. Who's responsible for this? How often do you check that? And so on and so on. And of course, you've got the probing questions, which is the follow-up questions. It can be open, it can be closed. It will help you to dig deeper, to focus on what's important. Again, it can be open, can be closed, no problems. And there is a fourth type of question that you shouldn't use at all. As much as you can, avoid it. And that's leading questions. Leading questions. You know what's a leading question, right? This is it. That's a leading question. You know what I'm talking about, right? And I expect you to nod, to say yes. That's a leading question. I'm leading you to an answer. That's not okay. Don't use it. Avoid it. And if you happen to catch yourself dropping a leading question in, just follow it up with an open question. Fix it. Does it make sense? So we're asking open questions, closed questions, and probing questions. The last thing I would like to say here is ask more open questions. And if you believe that you have asked way too many open questions in this verification, aim for more. As much as you can, open questions. Closed are fine, but open is much better. As much as you can. All right. And just to practice that a little, I know we have many of you in the session today, so we can't really engage you that much, but I want you to individually think and reflect on those two questions you have on the screen here. I'd like to give you 30 seconds to turn these into open questions. Just in your mind, in your head, right? Turn these questions into open questions that you might ask in a verification. I'll give you a few seconds to reflect on that. Right. So usually in courses, when we do such an exercise, most people come up with very nice open questions and the rest of it, like how do you manage corrective action forms? But some people ask about something else, which is what do you do upon identifying missing delivery dates? All of these are open questions and good, and I hope you're good at coming up with these open questions. But to be fair, it is not easy to always ask open questions in a 2 hours verification. It takes a lot of practice, right? And to make it easier for you, what I usually suggest is think of, say, 3-4 templates of open questions that you would like to utilize a lot, to the like of tell me about something, show me something, how do you manage something, what's your procedure for? I'll repeat those. Tell me about, show me, how do you manage, what's your procedure for? These are templates of questions that I can utilize in my audit or my verification. So now I only need a topic to plug in at the end of this question. In the slide here, you can see that in scenario 1 here, you have 2 topics. Whether you ask about the corrective action or you ask about the missing delivery dates. How do you manage missing delivery dates? What do you do upon identifying missing delivery date? I might follow up with show me that corrective action form. Tell me more about those corrective action forms. So you decide based on where you're at in the conversation, right? In real life, where does the topic come from? It can be something you saw, something you heard the auditee saying, and sometimes it's from the checklist. So that's where the topics come from. You take one of these templates, put the topic at the end of it, and that's how you get your open questions in an easier way. And I'm aware of time really, and I'm trying to add value here and there, so let's keep it moving. So after you ask a question, you need to listen. And the best thing you can do is to stop talking. That's very helpful. Let people talk. You ask them a question, give them a chance to answer. No need to ask the question again. Sometimes people ask the question, then ask it again in different words. Just ask good question and wait. Let them think, especially if English language is a second or a third language for that person. Maybe they need time to translate and think, right? Try to give them that. Reduce distractions. Don't think of the next question while they're talking, especially new auditors, new verifiers. Just ask a good question, listen. And based on what they say, I take one of the template of these questions we spoke about and I plug the topic at the end of it and I ask again. No need to plan 3-4 questions in advance because you might not make it that far anyway. One good question and listen. And you keep going like that. You need to show that you're listening, apparently nodding, smiling, paraphrasing, and all of these good things that you might do. And just to give you some more tips around interviews, hopefully that will be of value to you as well. I always say, you're the verifier, you're scary. Sorry, we're all scary, right? Because we're the auditor, we're the verifier. People might panic when they hear us asking them a question. So you really need to work on putting people at ease. Listen in, give them space, smile, encourage them that, oh yeah, this is great, this is fantastic, and all of the good stuff that you can be doing. You need to be aware of cultural differences. This is a nice topic to talk about, but just to give you a couple of tips. People are different, right? Based on their culture, based on what they learned from a bigger group that they belong to, right? And examples of cultural differences that can have an impact on your verification can be eye contact. Some people like prolonged eye contact and some people like it to be a lot shorter. So if you feel that the person is not maintaining eye contact, maybe it puts pressure on them when you talk to them and you maintain eye contact, maybe look at your checklist a bit more. Look at the workplace a bit more. Another one can be personal space. If I'm auditing you, I don't know what you're comfortable with from a personal space point of view, right? Some people like to stand really close. Some people like to keep a lot more distance. As a verifier, I leave you to decide. So I stand in a way that there is enough space around me and let the auditee, the operator, decide how far or how close they'd like to be. Does it make sense? Like even body language vary. Just for the fun of it, I'll share this quick example. If I ask you, you'd like a cup of tea, you might go, yep, eyebrows up. Yep, this is how it goes in New Zealand. But it's not the case in other countries, in other cultures. Eyebrows up might mean no. So even the body language vary. So pay attention to that, right? And so confirm what you see, what you hear, always. So a good thing to do in your verification would be to always highlight the positives and to always keep the auditee informed of what's happening. So if they say something good, yeah, fantastic. This is in line with the requirements. You're managing the risks. Keep up the good work. If there is a non-conformance, say it. And say it clearly. Don't tell people, oh yeah, that wasn't great, and you go. What does that mean? If it's a non-conformance, say it. Non-conformance. Use the words. So they're not guessing. They're not, confused. Non-conformance, say it right then, right there, and say it clearly. Non-conformance, and explain why and the rest. And remember to take notes, of course. So one other thing that we would like to highlight here, really, another tip is triangulate your evidence. Like I mentioned the word objective evidence earlier in the definition, right? Your verification is all about objective evidence. So how do I make it objective? Factual, can be verified. I see something, I ask about it, I look at paperwork. This is an example of 3 methods that I can use to confirm the evidence I'm looking at. It doesn't need to be these 3 in particular, but as much as possible, you heard something, ask about it. You looked at something, confirm it in the records. As much as you can use 2 or 3, ideally 3 methods of confirming the evidence to make sure that, yes, it is solid, it is objective. All right, so triangulate your evidence. I used 3 different methods of what I shared with you to confirm that the evidence is there. Remember to take notes, very important. The worst ink is better than your memory. It can be on your tablet, in your laptop anyway, but the idea is take notes. If you have 7 audits or 7 verifications that week, good luck remembering what is what at the end of the week when you're trying to write down the report, right? So take notes, examples of what was said, who said it, what you've seen, which records you looked at, what dates you looked at. If there are non-conformances, make sure that it's supported with solid evidence. That's very important. So all of that is good. All of that is suggesting some tips that you can utilize in your verification, and hopefully that was a good refresher there. But there is another topic that I would like to focus on, which is how can we incorporate risk-based thinking and process-based thinking in our audits? And this is money. This is great. You should be doing it, right? So let me explain what I mean by it. Sometimes you go to an audit and you're surprised with how big that workplace is, how many things they're doing. It's massive. It can put pressure on you. I have 2 hours, but I need to cover all of this. What do I do? The answer is risk-based thinking, process-based thinking. In another scenario, you might be observing a senior verifier, and you will be thinking, oh my God, how are they so calm, managing their time really nicely? Here comes the end of the audit. They checked everything they needed to check. They're cool. They're fine, not stressed, on time. How do they do it? And the answer again is risk-based thinking, process-based thinking. So let me explain that. When you go to a verification, there is a lot of processes happening at that workplace. They might be cooking food, they might be cooling, they might be blending spices, they might be doing this, they might be doing that. There is a lot happening, right? Hopefully, everything they do is documented in a proper process. Everything is a process, but hopefully they're documenting it and managing it well, right? So there will be a process, steps they follow to turn inputs into outputs, flour into bread, whatever meat and egg and cheese and stuff into a sandwich. So a process is steps that turn inputs into outputs. And you would hope that they have a good process for that, documented and the rest. But also they need to have materials and equipment that they use to support this process to get this output thereafter. And the machine needs someone to run it, to use it. The process, there are people following it. Hopefully they're competent, they're trained. Also, we need methods, procedures, recipes. And hopefully at the end, they get the product that meets expectation. Have we got the right result? Are we hitting the right performance that we expect, the metrics that we expect? So what you're looking at here is a turtle diagram. A turtle diagram. If you're creative enough, you will see the body, the tail, the head, arms, and the legs of the turtle, right? When you go out there verifying team, always look for the turtle. What is the process? Where are the people that follow this process? Are they competent? What about the materials, the equipment? Is it cleaned? Is it maintained? Is it calibrated? What about the recipes, the procedures? And what checks do they do at the end before they say, we're good, release the product, serve it? So that's the process that I will be looking for. And everything you look at is a process. Even if you're in a warehouse somewhere and somebody is doing the receiving of ingredients, fantastic. That's a process. Even the forklift driver who's unloading the product off the truck, well, to that driver, they have a process. Steps they follow. Check the forklift, do this, do that, check the safety, talk to the manager, understand where to put the materials. They gave me the green light. The product is to be received, unloaded. Then they go and unload it. And at the end, they check that, yes, I've got the 7 pallet they want me to unload. Everything is good. It's in the right place. I give thumbs up to the manager. I'm done. So in reality, it's a process that has a competent person doing it, that has a forklift, machine, equipment, information, and they do final checks. As a verifier, I just go and find the process and ask few questions about the home, the competency of the person, ask few questions about the equipment, the material, what checks do you do? A good question to always ask to the person is, what if there is a problem? How do you manage that? How do you know that the process is achieved? The product is cooked, the cooling is achieved within the time frame, whatever you're auditing, right? But also I'll ask them, what if there is a problem? So that's the process, and I'll give you a bit of a practical example shortly as well. When it comes to risk-based thinking is, or what you need to do is, when you are following the process, focus on what's more important. So if I'm talking to a team member and clearly they are so good, they know what they're talking about, they worked here for 3 years, maybe there is no need to talk to them about, hey, what training have you received? Show me your training record, blah, blah, blah. I feel the risk is low around the competency of this person. That's why I'd like to move it fast. but maybe they're using a sensitive piece of equipment like a thermometer that they use to check temperatures. Oh yeah, there is a risk related to calibration, so I better ask about that. So I save a minute on the competency, I spend it on the equipment, the calibration. Focus on what's more important. You cover all of these areas, you zoom out, then you move to the next process. You dig deeper. Zoom out, finish it, zoom out, go to the next process. And this is how you do it. And I know that I have a few minutes left here, so let me give you a quick example. Once upon a time, I was assessing an auditor as part of training them, assessing them, and the rest of it. We walked into, that was overseas anyway, but we walked into a commercial kitchen in a hospital. We followed the process, starting with receiving, finished receiving, approved suppliers, the rest of it. Then we moved into some of the storage areas, completed that. Now we're going to the actual kitchen upstairs in the building, right? When we walked into the building, it was, into the kitchen, sorry, upstairs, it was massive kitchen, huge. I was surprised. And I felt for that new auditor. If I'm surprised with how big this kitchen is and a lot happening, how would a new auditor feel? So we decided to take a few minutes to plan how we will tackle all of this. And long story short, the answer to the pressure that we were under was process-based thinking. They have many processes happening, to the like of bakery department, to the like of sandwiches, dessert, cooking, you know, a whole lot of things happening. Then we thought, let's take a sample of processes. Given the time we have, let's take 3 processes. One for a product that isn't cooked, like salad or something like that. One for a product that is cooked. And let's focus on the cleaning procedures that they do for the trays and the rest of it. And now we take every process at a time. You zoom in, you talk about the people, their competency, the steps they follow, the recipes, the machine, the equipment. And as you do that, they say, okay, how do you make those like salads? All right, we go to the fridge, we grab the ingredients. Let's go to the fridge, let's have a look. Now I'm checking the equipment. Cleaning, maintenance, calibration, temperature, checking, these type of things. Then we come back. When they say we pick the right ingredients, I'm thinking risk, I'm thinking allergens, I'm thinking dates, expiry dates, right? So you follow the process one step at a time. You focus on the highest risk. When you finish the salad making process, you're done with it all. You move to the next process, which is cooking. The next process, whatever that is, right? Process-based thinking while applying risk-based thinking as you go through it. That's how you manage your time. So at any point in your verification, you know exactly, like I'll give you a really quickly example here. Let's say I'm verifying in a restaurant. They receive, they store, they prepare, they cook, they hot hold, serve, cool, reheat, hot hold, something like that. At any point in time, in my verification, I know that I have covered receiving, I have covered storage, I have covered preparation, now I'm at cooking. I check my time and yes, I'm on track. If I feel I'm a little behind, I move it faster. If I feel that, no, I'm on track, then we're good. So here is the key process, the overall process on that site. And I zoom in, I finish the receiving, then I zoom out. I move to the next one, finish it. And that's how I manage my time. That's how I focus on what's important, how I add value. Risk-based thinking, process-based thinking. And what you're looking at here, as I said, is the turtle diagram. So just go and look for these turtles, guys. All right. And just to wrap up, be a mindful verifier. Pay attention to what's happening around you. Always ask, am I adding enough value? What questions I can add or ask. At any point in your verification team, you can pause for a minute or two, tell the operator, hey, I would like 2 minutes to tidy up my checklist, make sure I'm on track. Take a minute to think, process, turtles, the rest of it. Am I on track? Everything is good. Am I happy? Are they happy? Maybe I didn't give them a break. Maybe I should change my style a little bit. I feel that they're stressed or something. Be mindful. Pay attention to the details. Take a time to reflect, a minute to reflect during the verification. So prevention is better than cure. Plan really well. Take that time to prepare. Respect others, respect their experience, communicate really clearly, listen, and remember that you're auditing the system, not the people. So the practice is not meeting requirements. And this is what I'm commenting on and raising non-conformance against, but not the individual. That's not my job to assist the person and to judge them and to tell them they're not smart. They don't know the right job. That's not okay. All right. And the last thing to say is be curious, be critical, but be kind. And that's how you verify with impact. And that was us, team. Thank you. I hope we managed to squeeze in a couple of good tips here and there. I hope it was easy to follow. And thank you. We hopefully allowed enough time for questions, and I'll pass the ball back to Tanya.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Ray. That's a fantastic overview and presentation. Some great little tips and tricks there along the way for sure. We've definitely got a couple of questions rolling in. If you are thinking of any others at the moment, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to start with a question for the ages, Mary. Thank you for raising this one because we've all come across this. So Ray, how would you approach the same pen, same results with zero variation by the same operator over and over again? You're suspecting the records have been falsified. Tips and tricks for the approach on this one.
Definitely. And again, as I said earlier, cross-checking and ask them to show you how they do it. So I will cross-check it against the different records. So if you say you cook temperatures, let's say they show me the cooling temperature, and it's the cooling record, sorry, and it suggests the times from 9 till 11, then 11 till 2, whatever. But the cooking record shows that they started cooking at 10. Then there is a problem, non-conformance, and it's objective, it's based on real evidence. And that's an example of it. And the other one is, as I said, I will ask people to show me how they do it. If they do it wrong, I will raise the non-conformance against how they check the temperature, not necessarily the recording the temperature. This is my ear, and this is my ear. It doesn't matter, right? As long as there is a non-conformance against temperature checking and they will look into it, we're good. With that said, if you cross-checked, if you did everything, if they know how they do it and they do it correctly, and everything objectively suggests that it's good, then maybe it is good. Maybe you're mistaken. Does it make sense? Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a tricky one. I think we've all come across it, as you said, but yeah, I love that in terms of just cross-checking. There's always another way to kind of have another perspective and dig a little deeper. Absolutely.
And actually, sorry, Tanya, another example really quickly on that because it's worth adding value. Sometimes you will see that it's always Sean who's checking the temperature every day. Well, Sean better take a day off sometime. So I might talk to Sean. Sean, how many days a week do you work? Oh yeah, like full-time. When is your day off? Sunday. Okay, how do you check temperatures on Sunday? And they might say, oh, no, they write it down and I write it down on a Saturday, whatever, when I come back on Monday. Then you deal with it this way. Yeah. Sorry, back to you, Tanya.
No, I think we've all had that. Oh, they write it down and then I'm the manager and I'll put it in the book kind of thing. We've all had that one. It's an interesting one to deal with. Got a question from Tracy. Any advice regarding the power imbalance or the nervousness of operators when you're asking open questions and not necessarily those that are English as second language operators?
Say the question again to make sure I'm getting it right.
That's all right. Just any advice you might have regarding the power imbalance or the nervousness of operators when you're asking them open questions. Right.
Okay. So it is more difficult to answer an open question, right? Because you expect me to say more. So, and we agreed that I'm a verifier, I'm scary. Okay. So I think let's talk about how I put people at ease first. So let's say I'm talking to Tanya. I'm asking you questions, you're answering my questions, then somebody walked past us. I didn't start talking to that person yet. I'll smile, I'll say good morning to them. Then I will continue with you. So I'm building rapport with that person before I even go to talk to them. I'm friendly, I'm smiley, and the rest of it, put people at ease. Here is a tip for you. Start with an easy question. Never start with a non-conformance. even if it's obvious. Let's say I just walked into a department, there is an obvious non-conformance. I'm not going to start with that. Delay it a little. Talk about something easy, something good. They answer like, how do you make those cakes? Just take me through the process. They know how to make the cakes. They will answer that. Then I start digging deeper and making the questions a bit more difficult. Can I start with a closed question? Like, hey, I've been told you're responsible for training. Is it all right to ask you a couple of questions around that? Yeah. Then immediately the pressure is down because they know training. This is what they do. So start with easy question, put people at ease, delay the non-conformances. Here are a couple of tips. I hope that's of value.
Oh, fantastic. Got a question in here. This is a different one. How would you approach records that are maintained with a pencil? What outcome would you suggest? It's an interesting one, actually, the use of a pencil. I guess there's nothing to say you can't use a pencil.
Yeah, I think we all agree that we need confidence in what we're looking at. I think what I would say here is let's all of us agree on one thing. So we need legitimate records. I don't need to see that they're changing the answers and the rest of it. Did I say the right thing? I don't remember hearing myself anyway. So I want confidence in what I'm looking at, right? So does pencil give me confidence? Not quite. All right. But I think what we can do is at our council, and even through the New Zealand Institute for Environmental Health that give us a forum where all the councils talk to each other, let's agree on one thing, all of us. So what do we want to do with pencils? Do we accept it or do we all raise observations around it? Or let's check with the regulator as well, with MPI, what do they want on that? Because it doesn't give that much confidence. But is it a non-conformance? I don't know. We need to agree on that. All right. Cool.
I suppose it's the context too. If you look at a week's worth of records and one day was written off a pencil, but the overall picture is telling you something else, it may not even be worth mentioning.
Yeah. And probably similar to it is the use of technology these days. Some people use tablets and nice systems, and I know that we have Chomp talking to us today or tomorrow. Is it today or tomorrow?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday, here we go. So like these are amazing tools and it's helped us a lot. But what if someone is using Excel sheets? Well, it's like a pencil. Anyone can go and change that reading. Am I happy with that? It is a topic to discuss actually across all councils and MPI as well. Yeah.
Sure. Question from VJ. Any tips on how you might verbally explain to someone with English as a second language topic outcomes in simple terms, more so if it's non-conforming versus non-complying?
Fair enough. And I think, general speaking, let's avoid jargon with anyone, right? Like there's no point in going to a workplace talking to a team member who's packing something on the production line, and I'm saying to them, hey, how do you usually manage document control for Form 13? Well, to start with, nobody knows what Form 13 is. Just tell them what it is. And they might not understand document control. What does that mean? Keep it simple. I will use the right language with the right person. Even I might use internal language they're used to in that workplace, but nobody else understands. Going back to conforming, non-conforming, the rest of it, performing and the rest, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Like, hey, performing, which means great, you're doing a good job. Conforming means fantastic, you're meeting the requirement, but hey, there is an area for improvement. Non-conforming means you're not meeting the requirement. Non-compliance, though, bad news, like product might be unsafe or you're not meeting a key requirements. I think keep it simple, explain it in a language people can understand, encourage open communication. And we said that we need to put people at ease, always remind them, hey, at any point, if there is something that isn't working for you, please let me know. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just ask me, I'll explain it differently. Yeah, I think keep it simple, use simple language. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the answer that VJ is hoping for, but hopefully it is of value. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. One from me is more just that balance in your thoughts around records versus reality and the emphasis that should be, if we could put a weighting one way or the other, where do you see that line sitting?
Right. Some standards and some standard owners, to the like of GFSI recognized BRCGS and the rest of it, they will clearly tell you half of your time must be on site, on the practical side of things, not on the paperwork. Minimum of half. Again, we need consistency. I don't want to go to a workplace where my colleague, well, let's say I go to a workplace, I spend like 1.5 hours in the paperwork and half an hour on operation when my colleague is doing the other way around. Consistency is always key. And we better focus on practicality. I think half-half is a good split, unless if the MPI is expecting it differently and the council is expecting it differently. But practical is more important than paperwork at the end of the day. With that said, paperwork is important, right? Process-based thinking that I was talking about is important as well. So we're trying to focus on what's important. And actually, really quick tip here. MPI says to us there are 5 key topics that we have to focus on, and I pick the other topics. Please focus on risk. There is no point in a verifier always pick those 5 and another additional 3, and every time they check the same 8, regardless of where they go. That's not risk-based thinking. Not good news, right? So this operation is different to that. They're both restaurants. They're both similar. But these guys do a lot of cooling, a lot of sous vide, a lot of allergen claims. All of that is risk that I need to focus on that I might not do in another restaurant. So always risk-based thinking, and part of it is how much paperwork I look at.
Oh, brilliant. Awesome. Well, we'll leave it there for this morning. Thank you so much, Ray. Look, as NZIEH, we're really proud to partner with you and your organisation. Hopefully everyone's got a lot of good tips and tricks out of your presentation this morning. Your slide is still up there with your website. I really encourage people to go and have a look. Ray is exceptional at what he does in terms of training and sharing these tips and tricks and knowledge, and he is available for other training courses, mentoring and support at all times. So he's a great resource to reach out to if you as individuals or your workplace are looking for any extra training in this area. Thank you again, Ray. Really appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And probably I'll stop sharing my screen. So thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. And it's a pleasure working with yourselves and definitely verifiers and different councils and training and other capacities. So thank you. Yeah.